What's up, everybody? This is Simon. On this episode of The Ideal Hour, I have Christoffer Groves here. He is the CEO of Groves Capital. We're going to get to hear all about that. He also is an entrepreneur from the age of 16, has over 1 million followers on Instagram. This guy is active. He has great energy. I got introduced to him by a friend, Clement Connor, who I hooked up with something in the past, and we became friends. But Christoffer has a good story to tell, and we're going to get to hear it on The Ideal Hour. Christoffer, thanks for coming on, man. I truly appreciate it. I know you're a busy man.
I gotta stay busy. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So I checked out your Instagram. A little backstory: a friend of ours connected us together. And I was like, well, come on the podcast in the meantime. And you're like, sure, let's do it. And you got a big following, so I appreciate it. I appreciate you being humble. But I saw your Instagram and I'm like, holy crap, this guy's doing a lot of stuff. I've seen you at events. I've seen you in magazines. I've seen you all over the place. So let's talk about Groves Capital, what it is and how you got into that.
Yeah, so complete pleasure. So Groves Capital started about close to 8 years ago at this point. Initially, my wife was in the lending space. I was in the real estate space. So I kind of started off as an appraiser, agent, broker that I used to run with Keller Williams, one of their team lead partners. She was jumping around to banks like Chase and Wells and Bank of America. And then she ended up working at Movement Mortgage, which was the MSA in Keller Williams. So we started doing a lot of deals together. And I realized, man, this gal can keep up with me. And she kind of just kept getting frustrated with the other entities and jumping around a lot in the mortgage space. So if you look at any loan officers' resumes, it's common, right? Everyone's always looking for the next best thing. So we really couldn't find it. So we built it and we started the two of us, first 2 years of business. We were doing 7 figures, just two of us in our personal business. I said, hey, let's grow this. And at the time, my wife kind of laughed at me. She's like, well, who's going to join? I'm like, well, we built this for you. You're a beast. This is what you always wanted. I think other people are going to like it. So that was May of that year. By December that year, I had 55 loan officers on our platform. Oh, wow. And then the next year, we were over 550.
Oh, my God.
And then I grew from there. So obviously people liked it. We're always growing and modifying and changing things to be the best company for our partners. And, obviously there's always something to pivot and change, based on the economics that we work in finance.
Absolutely. So you and your wife started it. This isn't something your dad handed down to you. You literally built it from the ground up.
Exactly. Yeah, no, both me and wife come from humble places. We built this all from the ground up. We never took partners. We never took loans out. It was just work your butt off, put in the time, put in the effort, and we grind it, nonstop. And we have 2 small kids as well. I have a son, Conrad, 9, and a daughter, Capri, 5. So we built this all while having children at our sides as well. So it's been nonstop.
First, kudos to you both. That's incredible. And congrats on having kids. I think that always levels you up because you want to do more for them and kind of pass down what I call a legacy and a lot of people call a legacy. I think that's what you're really ultimately building for. But I also read that you've been an entrepreneur at a young age. So this isn't your first, I would say, business or...
No, and I started being an entrepreneur very young. I started catering companies around the age of 16. I've had personal training companies. I've had gyms. I've had supplement stores and, brokers, different brokerships with real estate. So a lot of learning, I always tell people I've had a lot of mistakes. I've lost a lot of money. Learned a lot of not what to do, but the one thing with business is it just takes one good idea, and it can blow you up, and then obviously you got to leverage that into other things. But it's the key is just never stop.
I got you. You never quit. You learn, you move on, you improve. All right, and then you have over 1 million Instagram followers. We're going to go into that as well. How did you get so popular?
So I kind of want to be the new, like when we started Grow, it was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. I told my wife I really wanted to focus on PR and obviously it's an investment, right? Time, money, resources. And I started writing articles for a lot of big outlets like USA Today, Bloomberg. So those articles started to get as popular and I started getting more notoriety because of those. Mm-hmm. And I started working with starting to do my own videos and started to grow our platform and followers from there. So it was my goal to make mortgage sexy, right?
Okay.
No one's ever really, because it's not. It's boring. It's archaic. It's a guy in a black suit that has no personality. That's what you think about when you think of mortgage. So for me, I'm not that, obviously. Me and my wife are energetic. We like to be new age. So that's what my goal is with Groves is to bring PR and publicity into it. No one's really done it up to this point, unless you're Quicken or Loan Depot. There's no private broker that's really in the media a lot. So I'm always doing news outlets, meetings as far as morning shows and then magazines. I'm constantly writing for them. I'm an author for a lot of big publications these days. But I think that's what matters. Like, people don't know who you are, then that's the biggest issue with any business. But in the lending business more than anything else, it's trust and reliability. And more articles, more reviews, more trust, more reliability, you're gonna grow. So that's what I've used as a platform to grow my business, is those values.
You got to be out there, it sounds like, and you got to put face to it, because you're competing against some big budgets with Quicken and all the others, Rocket or whoever else is out there. That's pretty neat. So based on what you kind of given me, we're going to go a little bit deeper into everything. First of all, how'd you meet your wife? Because I think that's such an essential part of your success, is having such a strong business partner that has the same direction, the same vision, or not necessarily the same direction all the time, but really knows the end goal, which you guys probably share or are close in the ballpark of what you want to do as far as an exit or growth. So how did you meet such an individual that literally levels you up and, puts up with the good and bad?
So I'm originally from Wisconsin. I'm from a very small town of 942 people. I moved out here. So literally cow town. I, milk cows every day after school, Midwest mindset. And then I moved out here 18, $300, no job, no car, nothing, right? And I started, I think I started serving on Prospect Street at waiting tables first. Then I got into personal training from there. My wife, Elena, she's from San Diego, born and raised. She's one of those unicorns that's from here. And I'm a workaholic. When I was training, I was doing 14 to 16 hours a day. And those are hour sessions. So even on the weekends, I was nonstop. So me dating and going out I never went to a happy hour. I didn't know what a happy hour really was. I was like, I'm going to happy hour. I'm like, I got 5 hours of work left, so enjoy that. So I met her on Match.com. We always joke about it, because I always tell her, you got really lucky, and she gives me those looks. I'm like, well, you met me on a 3-day free trial. You didn't pay for it. I was really the only person she met on Match.com, and obviously worked out. But we actually talked about this the other day, because we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But when I met her, I was probably the most honest with myself and honest with her. I told her exactly what I was looking for. So, because a lot of our friends go, how do you guys work together? How do you not kill each other? When I met my wife, I told her, I'm a workaholic. I'm never going to stop. I'm not going to be the guy that's home at 5 o'clock. You're never going to have to motivate me. I'm never going to, this is who I'm as a person. But I'm like, I don't want to stay at home wife. I don't want that. I know that for sure. I want someone that's going to level up with me, that's going to grind it out. Because if they don't understand how much effort and time I'm going to put into building an empire, it's not going to work out. And I told her, and we joke about this, I said, I want to be a power couple. That's my ultimate goal. So, manifestation, actions, and hard work over the last 10 years, that's what we're kind of known for now is being that power couple. But I always tell people, I define that from day one, and we made the same goals. And that's the reason we've been successful, because as a couple, as a married couple, as partners, we have the same focus, same goals, same expectations in retirement, and how our life should roll out. Obviously, those things have changed as we've evolved, but that's the key to success. Is you guys have got to have the same goals.
When you first met, and Elena's her name, is that correct? Okay, yeah. When you first met her and you gave her that spew of saying, "Hey, I really want you to work," some women might get deterred by that or not understand that, right? Was she all for that, or was she already a professional?
So her dad was in the mortgage and lending business. That's kind of how I got into it, because she kind of always wanted to get into it, and somehow it became my reality. But no, I was very direct. I said, I need someone that's healthy, someone that works out, that's motivated, someone that's not going to stop. And I just laid off. I was just like, this is who I am. This is exactly I don't want you to say later on, this is when you didn't tell me this, right? I didn't want to be that guy. So I was so direct, and I figured I ended it. I said, hey, listen, do you still want to go on this date? Or you still want to continue on this date? And she looked at me and she's like, yeah, I want to go on. I'm like, okay. All on the table. This is who I am as a person. And she's all, I want someone to motivate me. I want someone to rise with me. And, I want someone to push me to the next level. And she always has,
That is awesome. And you both, I assume from that meeting did not proceed with the subscription on Match.com. You both let it run out of the 7-day trial. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was on it for quite the time. I see. To be honest, but she stopped. We tried to get him to sponsor our wedding. They wouldn't do it.
Oh, really? That would have been hilarious.
But we're actually working on a TV show right now. It's like a power couple, positive, like Shark Tank meets entrepreneur show. So we're actually pitching Match to be one of the main sponsors of the show as well. So we'll see.
I would watch that. That would be dope. You guys sound like you have a very fun dynamic. When you guys go out with friends, are you two always going out together, or do you have separate time that, you kind of have your own friends and spaces? Because my wife and I personally, we have this rule, and there's nothing against people that go out separately or whatever. But as a power couple or such as yourself, what's your rule on that? Do you go out together? Do you go out separate? Or is it good to have both?
So, we always laugh because up to about 2.5 years ago, you didn't know who I was like in the social scene. Like okay. I was never out. Like unless it was business, being her grinded. We had kids very young. When I met Clement and Fast Plane, that's kind of what opened up our like social time for us because our children were old enough for us to start going out and otherwise start watching them. So the last 3 years, then like kind of everyone started knowing who we were because we finally got out of, like for me, I was never the kid that partied when I was younger. I said, when I want to go party, I'm going to do it 5 stars and I'm not waiting in line.
Okay.
I'm going to work my butt off.
Same. I hate lines.
So I never went to those things. For now, yes, we go to answer your question. We pretty much go together with pretty much everything we do. We have sitters and stuff like that. Is there every once in a while an event that one of us goes to without each other? Yeah, very, very rarely, but we're usually at each other's hip. These days, we take our kids to school every day. We work together every day at the office. She's my best friend. Pretty much we're with each other nonstop.
And sorry to keep asking questions about it. I think this is such an important part though, because I've met people that are trying to start a business or have a business, but the other party or the significant other, I should say, is like, why aren't you home on time? Or hey, I don't understand. Why are you constantly going out? Or why do you have to travel for work and so forth? And I feel like that kind of hinders the progress of a business growth and actually breaks the relationship at one point. It cracks it. How do you guys, now I should give you a little backstory. My wife and I work in the same office or building as well. So we built this building where I built this podcast. And then, people ask us all the time as well, like, hey, how do you deal? You work in the same office? Like they think their heads are going to explode, right? And I'm like, yeah, we do. And yes, I am on a different floor, but I still see her. How do you guys deal with like disputes or arguments in the workforce and showing respect to each other where your employees understand that level of respect as well?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. So, at first we butted heads a lot, right? Because I think if you start competing against each other, then it becomes a competition, and we're both very aggressive, and we're kind of alphas when it comes to business and sales, and we're competitive. So at first we kind of like, you do sales, and we're like pushing back and forth. So we kind of like figured out staying in our own role is what's made us successful and our company successful, and we kind of like push off things to our organization, right? Mm-hmm. So Elena's always, she's off, she's back end, like she's amazing savant when it comes to numbers, as far as like, I will say, I want to build this and she will implement the back end of it, right? Wow. So I've always been big picture growth, recruiting, relationships. She brings in the details and hammers out the backside. Now, do we have conflicts? Do we have issues? Do we not see eye to eye on other things? Yes, there are those times. She knows. You got to know what drives someone. Like for me, I'm very about positivity. Like you give me positivity and you say I'm amazing, I will move mountains for you. I will crush it. I will dominate. If you tell me I'm a piece of shit, I'm never going to do anything, and I'm not doing a good job,
it's going to distance you.
I'm going to push away, right? So she knows. For me, you got to be positive. Like I don't hear problems anymore. Like I'll hear a problem and then I'll stop. I'm like, let's focus on the solution. I'm not going to stress about the problem. We know that's there. Let's focus on the solution. So a lot of trial and error, but that's kind of what we focus on. And we do a pretty good job at like, moving past issues pretty quickly. But yeah, there's always times like, even in this market about, where we're taking the company or what we're spending money on, because everything's a little different, right? So we have a little bit different ideas of that. We sit down, talk about it and think about the big picture. And then we also rely on people that are better and bigger than us to give, information to us. And we take that info plus ours and we make an action.
A good decision. Thanks for sharing that. That's I think that's important. And again, I think if you want to build a legacy, you got to have a partner that does, for the audience that's listening, because oftentimes I see it go the other way. And then I also see when the two people are not respectful of each other, or something's built on a platform and then the couple is not together in the same direction, a divorce happens and then everything crumbles, right? And it's cool to see that you guys are, solid and understand each other's role in what it takes to get to where you're going. I appreciate you sharing that, Christoffer. A lot of people may not want to. I always tell people, I'm like, hey, the wife wins at the end of the day, because she has a higher capacity to argue than I do, and then although I'll huff and puff, I'll have to settle down. Now.
The one thing we talk about is males, like we're solution based, right?
Yeah.
Women are more emotional. They want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's always the conflict where they just want you to sometimes go, you're right.
Yeah.
I can't believe that happened. You're absolutely correct by feeling those emotions. That's what they want to hear. And then you fix the problem. So I try to work on that as well.
Absolutely.
But that's the biggest difference between males and females. We fix problems. They want to talk about them for a little longer. But for me, in this day and age, I just don't have time to talk about problems.
Yeah.
It's like there's always a problem. Let's just focus on the solution and solve it, and then we're gonna be happy. Don't dwell on the crowd.
And we'll get into some of kind of overcoming some problems and objections. I think a lot of people see Instagram, they go, "Wow, every day is peachy, it's rosy,
Right.
Champagne popping, you're driving a Ferrari." Yeah. It's like as if let's say you live in a utopia and people don't understand the struggle that you've had to endure and your wife to get to the level that you're at. I mean, they see Ferraris or nice things and so forth, shiny things. They go, well, you got lucky. There's no luck behind this. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like I can agree more. It's one thing I always laugh. We see our friends all the time, and we see each other like, man, you're always gone, you're always traveling, and they're thinking the same thing of us. And we're like, how do they do it all the time, right? Like even us in the same friend groups, we're like, they're always gone, they're always traveling. But listen, everyone posts the highlights. No one's gonna watch a video of Chris Groves sitting on the phone, hammering it out, having a problem, and yelling at people. They're like, that's not exciting. They want to see the cars, they want to see the houses, they want to see the trips. And so do we. Like, that's a highlight reel for us to look at it. But most people see people's success and they're like, oh, how do they do that? They just got lucky, and they kind of downplay it. So I do a lot of talking about mindset and looking at other people. For me, when I look at other people's Instagram stories or meet people and they're more successful or whatever it is, I don't judge them anymore. I'm happy for other people's success, but it took me a long time because I think humans in general are, what's the word? We're jealous of each other, right?
Envious.
Like someone has envious, and someone has more, the better looking. They have cars. You want to say, oh, they were handed that. They had family money. They didn't work as hard, because it justified like their success. It makes you feel better about not being there, right? So for me, I stopped that in my own mindset. When I look at someone that's more successful, that's amazing. That's great. They've crushed it. They've done something very well, and I'm happy for them, and I move on with my day. It's a lot better than being toxic and putting that negativity out there, and it doesn't change my day anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as people watching this, yes, those are highlight reels. Those are the good things. But the rest of my day, I would not be there if I didn't work my butt off. I didn't put in the time. And for 4 or 5 years, we didn't even put our head up. We just crushed, right? And with our kids, we raised our children, we raised our business. It was never stopping. Sometimes we worked till 3, 4 a.m. There's tears in our eyes at points, and there's breaking points. But we got through them. And, a lot of entrepreneurs say if you really put all your effort into something 2 to 4 years at a constant, you see success. But it's never going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen on a 40-hour work week. Bottom line.
I agree. I always say, hey, people's success, you want to surround yourself with successful people because it's going to level you up. I mean, I'm sure you've gone to dinners and you've seen someone doing something and you're like, you know what, I should do more. And it encourages you versus being with someone that's going to just chill and relax and not do as much. So I always say, if I don't truly like someone, or not everyone gets along with everyone, right? Like there are people that I'm sure you have where you're just two magnets that don't align. And I always say, hey, that person could eat, just not at my table, and I move on. I don't dwell on it. I'm sure you do the same, which is cool. You mentioned you're a motivational speaker. The 110% movement, is that what's that all about?
So that's my mindset and what success really takes, like kind of what we just talked about. So my belief is hard work. There's no substitution for it, right? And that's really the key to anything as far as success. Yes, do some people get lucky and win the lottery? Yes, it happens, But 99% of people work their butt off to achieve something. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So for me, I would say, like everyone, I started talking to salespeople over and over, right? Because I recruit. And salespeople always say 100%, 100%, 100%. And I recruited at such a constant, it became annoying to me, I'll be honest. Okay. So everyone I started talking to, I was like, okay, I can't take the 100% anymore. I'm like, listen, if you want to work with me,
they're all trying to sell you to hire them.
You're at 100%. I'm like, I'm at 110. They're like, what does that mean? I'm like, I don't stop where everyone else stops. That's why you're not as successful you need to be. You need to go above that, beyond that, and you need to stop putting thresholds and glass ceilings on where you need to go. So my mindset is it's always above and beyond, right? You're not stopping where everyone else stops, because that makes you average. If 100% is average, I'm going 110, right? So that's my mindset in everything I do. It's if I was going to stop where everyone else is going to stop, I won't be successful. And I'm not going to motivate anyone else. So with my health, being a father, being a business owner, being a leader, I try to always level up, try to be better, advance, even if it's 1% a day or 0.5% a day, I'm trying to grow. So
that's amazing, man. That's amazing. It's like, it reminds me of either Arnold Schwarzenegger or, someone said they start counting the reps after their muscles are done, not to 10, but like right after.
I did his workout in a college, man, like his Arnold Cyclopedia, man. That workout was 3 to 4 hours. Like I could barely finish it. I was a beast in those days, but he was an animal, but he's one of my idols. I mean, he's the American dream,
he is. He's a great guy. He just launched a book, I think, Be Useful. I just bought it and I'm reading it. Really good book so far. Let's talk about working out, Christoffer, because you look strong. I mean, your arms are popping through the Mac. Oh, good. Get back through the MacBook Pro. I try to work out. My best mindset is when I work out at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I also do jujitsu, which doesn't show muscles, but it's a different type of like exercise. But tell me about you. How important is that working out for the mindset, for the 110% that you're giving or expecting? Like, where is that? And if you take that out, where are you?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that always stuck with me is I have an older brother. My older brother doesn't have my same genetics. He's about 5'9", but he's always into working out. And I remember him telling me, he's like, Christoffer, if you're smart, if you keep your body in shape and you're tall, he's all, no one will touch you, right? And I always, my mindset, like, because when you look at someone that's in shape, number one, you judge everyone right when you meet them. Yep. You do, we all do. Right. So if someone works out, they take care of their body, you're already going to assume that they're going to take care of business as well. So for me, I never want to make people think I'm lazy. So working out, being consistent, persistent, always following a plan is the same thing in business as working out. That's what people don't understand. So I always hear, I don't have time. I'm well, listen, if I have 5 companies, I have 2 kids, I have a wife, I'm nonstop, and I have time to work out. You have time. It's just you're not making time for something that's not valuable to you at this point. So workout to me is everything as well. I work out like you do very early in the morning. It sets my mind. It's my de-stressing time. It's my me time to focus on me, and it really helps me de-stress. As a young kid, I would always get stress migraines and headaches and just feel sick. So workouts really help me let go of that, right? And if I'm pissed off, I'm really angry, I'm gonna go to the gym and work it out and not yell at people. I'm not gonna do something stupid. I'm gonna go beat it out of my body first. But the better you look, the better you feel, you're gonna be better in your life, right? You're gonna be happier. You're gonna be a better salesperson, be a better husband, and especially for being married. I'm sure as you know, like keeping my body in shape for my wife to keep the traction alive and her for me is a big part of our marriage.
Yeah, it's essential.
Yeah, because a lot of people get married and they get lazy. Like, I don't have to do this anymore. I'm married. I'm like, dude, I work every day to keep my body at like next level, not just for me, but for my wife. And, and it's important to me and it's important to us. And I think it's a big reason why a lot of marriages fails because people don't think like that. You got to constantly work on not just your mind, your body, like your life, like everything. It's all
It's a respect thing to your own body to really be in shape, and I appreciate when my wife works out and looks good. I think it's great, the acknowledgement of her own body and then others and myself. It just keeps that attraction alive. I totally agree with you. All right, let's talk about salespeople. You mentioned you've hired quite a few, and it became kind of mundane. They're probably trying to sell you, and you're like, hey, I've built something. Like, you don't have to sell me. I know who's good or bad. What do you look for in a salesperson that you feel is going to come in and level up your company?
Number one, it's mindset, right? I want to hear someone that say, hey, I'm going to create my own business. I'm going to get my own referral partners. I'm going to go after it, right? And the ones that are not crying about the market. Like, you start talking to a salesperson, they're already complaining about the market and the rates, or that's all they're concerned about. What's the bottom? What's the bottom? What's the bottom? I'm like, you're not a salesperson, number one. Anyone can sell something that doesn't cost anything. That's easy, right? Like, even in our business, like, how many people left our industry? Like, over 50%, right? Because refinances, it's not hard to sell someone a savings of money. Now, it's harder to sell someone at 7.5%, 8% rate right now. So the true performers are the ones that are going to stay in this market and dominate. And when the market turns around, they're going to just take over everything, right? So that's the mindset. So for me, you got to be hungry. You got to be positive. You're not going to be pointing fingers on people. I want to hear the background. Like, I always ask people, I want to hear about you before I jump in. Give me your background. Tell me what motivates you. What is your goals? Like, what are you looking for? Because I want to hear that before I give my, like, what I do. Right? I don't waste my time and energy on someone that's not already going to be a fit for my company. So you learn a lot from people. But the one thing I know about salespeople is some people are good at selling themselves and selling BS.
Right? You've had that.
The ones that talk the huge game, 95% of them are, there's nothing going on.
They're not going to do anything.
I'm doing this and doing that. It's a huge deal. And then like, they come on, there's nothing going on. They talk huge game. They ask for everything in the world, and there's nothing happening. So, you don't know all the time until you start working with them. But I always watch people, like, stay humble, but you got to have a good mindset perspective, and you got to be hungry, right? And that's the biggest thing in sales.
And it sounds like you mentioned it, positivity. You don't want to hear someone else's negative crap when you're interviewing them right away. And they're Nice. I love that. Sweep it under the rug and let's focus on what we need to do. All right. And then you mentioned you have kids. How do you balance? I mean, do you have a lot of help at home? What does your day look like? Because with my children, we're driving them here and there and then meeting, and then now I'm doing the podcast and so forth. What does your day look like, and how has your family dynamic been a part of that?
Yeah, so very much the same thing. It's kind of keep everything balanced. So last couple of years, when COVID hit, we found an office space. Like half my residence is my office, my personal office as well. So now I get to see my kids because I was always gone. That was a big part of a change. I have my gym here, I have my sauna, I've got my pool. There's no reason I ever have to leave this compound at this point, but I do. So, for me, the day looks, I always work out first thing in the morning before my kids and my wife wake up, because that's me time. I don't want to focus on anything. I want to talk about business for my first hour of my life. And then I get ready and take my kids to school every day with my wife. We both take them to the school.
Oh, both do it. Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we're one of the few. The principal always says that to our kids. He's like, lucky you are that your parents drop you off. Because, I never had that. I went on a bus for an hour and a half. Back. And then we get back to the office together. Most of our meetings start around 9-ish. Then we're throughout the day. Most of the time we're picking them up together if we can, every day as well. And, my wife will cook them dinner. I'll cook her dinner. But yeah, we kind of balance it out. If I have a meeting coming up, she'll go pick them up, or vice versa. So we're pretty good about juggling the things and communicating, because all day long we're like, okay, you're going here, you're doing this, I'm going to the bank, I'm running over there. Right. So you got to communicate with your partner and get things done, but we somehow figured it all out.
Somehow managed it, huh? And I think you mentioned, how old are your kids? You mentioned it earlier.
My son Conrad is 9 years old, and my daughter, and he's 4th grade. And then my daughter is 5 years old, and she's in kindergarten.
So what are you teaching your son right now? What's kind of the motivation, or how have you, for those that have kids that are listening, what's essential? Because that's a very important age to kind of direct them of maybe what they should be in the future, or how they should receive information and process it. And at the same time, how competitive they should be, right? Because I'm noticing like my daughters are in soccer and there's a huge difference between second grade and third grade in terms of physicality while they're playing and so forth. So what are you teaching, say, Conrad, in regards to business and being a man at this point?
Yeah. So one thing I've never done is I don't talk to my children like in a different voice. Okay. I talk to them like an adult. Like, so every day when I talk to my kid, like if you ask Conrad if he's in here right now and ask him what the 110 is, he will tell you it's about working harder than everyone else in the room. Like he knows. He also knows dad values people that do things, work hard, and I don't have to ask for him to do things, right? So for an example, I got this long driveway. Actually, I hate taking down the trash to this house I'm at right now for some reason, but I do it, right? But now Conrad's starting to do it, right? And well, Sunday I'm working out. He takes him out on Sunday because the trash comes on Monday. He comes back, I see him doing everything, and he comes and he's like, "Hey, Dad, I took out the trash." I'm all, "Nice job, buddy." He's like, "And you didn't ask me to do so." And I'm all, "That's what the 110 is, right?" He's like, "Right." I'm like, and I appreciate that, and that shows me you're listening to me. So he's more like, this last year, he's really jumped up a speed of motivation. His teachers, like I talk to him every day about what success is, what manifesting is, what hard work is. I give him perspective from an adult, whether he gets all the information in or not. And he's learning more than I thought, right? Like he'll start talking to my friend and he'll bring up stuff. I'm like, oh wow, it is sinking in. But parents, like, I think, try not to focus on adult things around them because they don't think they're gonna understand it, but they're listening to everything, right? Yeah. So I treat them like when they come home, you put your shoes away, you put your backpack away, you make a mess, you put it away, you're done with that, put in the dishes. I'm not doing this for you. So we have a nanny that comes, or she's more like a housekeeper from 9 to 2 o'clock, 4 days a week, right? So not at this point, she's not even here when they're here. But when they were, I tell the nanny, like, you're not picking up after. Yeah. That's not your job. Your job is they need to do their own stuff. And yes, there's a bigger thing you're helping out, but I want them to do their own stuff, pick up their own crap, pick up their own messes, and take responsibility for everything.
I love that.
And they understand, like, my lifestyle now, these kids, what they have is my dream at that age, right? And they don't understand. Like, you always try to give them perspective, like, hey, I had a shitty van with wood on the side, and we grew up, with no money in an $80,000 house. Now you're in a $10 million property, yeah. And you don't know exactly what life is about. It's hard to get that side. Child, right? Yeah. So I try to give them that perspective of things, and but they're going to be different than us, and that's the biggest thing. But you have to drive them to work hard and make them understand like how we got there. So they know I work all day long. They're in the car with me. They know Dad and Mom have to work to provide this lifestyle, and they get it. But I also am very direct what we're doing, and I'm telling them why we're doing it as we're doing it.
Yeah, you're showing them that, hey, this isn't magic. And it reminds me, I just saw a Michael Irvin clip on I'm sure you know who that is, a football player on the some show, and he's like, my son's a rapper, and he's like, I don't get it. You grew up in a gated community. You're rapping about my life. You know what I mean? Kids just don't understand the other side of things. That's cool that you're showing them. And I notice a lot of our kids go to a pretty affluent school here in the Bay Area near Hillsborough or Palo Alto. And a lot of nannies tend to raise children. It's kind of weird. We never see parents drop off or pick up. It's like, I'm totally against that. I'm glad you guys do it. I think it really ups the level of your children's development. So that's cool, man. All right, let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to be a motivational speaker, because aside from maybe getting more attention, what's the reason behind that? Are you hoping to improve people's lives, or do you feel like you have a story to tell?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, for me, I never really had a mentor growing up. Like, no one gave me this road. It's been trial and error. Luckily, I've been, when I was training science for many years, I was around a lot of successful people, and I'm a sponge. I learn, ask questions, and it's helped me progress as a person. But I never had someone say, hey, here's what you do. Like my parents, my dad will be working till the day he dies. They have no money, they have no savings, they have no retirement. I come from very humble beginnings, so that's part of me. I never want to be like that, right? I had more retirement at the age of 19 than my dad has today. Honestly, right? It's sad, but true. Yeah. But he's worked his butt off. My dad's the hardest worker in the room, but that's one part of it. You got to work, but you got to be smarter, and you got to do things the correct way. So that's why going out on my own and building my own company was super important. But I would like to inspire other people, that come from very humble beginnings, to take it if they have the right mindset, and help them, coach them to get the next level. Like for me, that's giving back. Like most motivational speaking or events I do, it's not for the money. And a lot of times I do everything for free. For me, it's getting out into the public. If I help some kid that just, dominates it and at the end of the day says, thank you so much for helping me or giving me this mindset, or it gave them a different perspective on life and it changed them. Like for me, that gives me goosebumps even talking about it right now. That's exciting for me. So that's really where that stems from is just helping people like, hey, listen, it doesn't matter if you don't have money. It doesn't matter if your family doesn't have money. If you put hard work, you put discipline, you start, surrounding yourself with people that are better and want to be better, you can do it as well. But it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to happen overnight, and you're going to put in a lot of time. And I would tell people the biggest thing with success you have to understand is you have to sacrifice. And I'm very hardcore about it. Like I tell entrepreneurs, I'm like, you're going to sacrifice a lot. You're not going to go with your friends. You're going to say no to the happy hour. You're not going to buy, a Porsche because you don't own a house right now. Yeah. Right. So you got to be, I'm very direct with the way I coach people, but, and I've seen people that take a hold of it and actually change their lives and thank me. And that's the greatest high I could do. So like us doing a TV show that we're working on right now, and I can do that on a bigger scale and help, couples, be their best in their marriage and their business and their family. Like that's amazing.
Match.com needs to get it together and agree to sponsor you guys. That's all I'm going to say. You met some cool people I saw on Instagram. You met Grant Cardone. I'd never met him or anything like that. So, you were standing next to 10X guy and you're 110X. How did that feel? Or how are some of these people you met? Are they as humble who's the coolest person you met?
Well, so Glenn Stearns is one of the coolest people I met, personally, as far as his life. And he has a book that kind of goes through him. He comes very humble beginnings as well, but made to a billionaire status. And he's so humble. Him and his wife have a really good relationship. So I told Glenn, recently, actually, I told him, I said, hey, I've never been inspired by another couple until I met you guys. And just being a good person, he's genuine. So that for me is like, success is great. Being a billionaire is amazing. But if you're a genuine person and you want to help people and like you actually listen to me when I talk to you, that's the difference, right? So Glenn Stearns is one of those people. Now, Glenn, since we've met, he's kind of like mentored me in certain levels, and the first person ever that kind of helped me, like I enough to mentor. Yeah. So he introduced me to Glenn Stearns. I was hanging out with him last week. I was hanging out with John Elway. I was hanging out Bear Habib, which is big in our industry. So I've met probably pretty much every big name in my industry now that was on my list. Grant's exactly how you think he's going to be. He's a big person. He's very aggressive. Yeah. He has a big, what go all in or you're all out. And he teaches that, which like I said, I respect him. He's done great with it. I don't agree with that on all aspects because most people are going to fail outright. So you can't sell your house, put all the cash into your business.
Can't bet on black every time. You know what I mean? And really hope it works.
Exactly. So he's got, and like that, I respect everything he did. I talked to him, right away. We started jumping in and talking about deals, and the best part was watching him and Glenn have like a back and forth. Like they did this back and forth, and Glenn's like me, more perspective, and Grant's like all in, aggressive and scrappy, and Glenn's all more do the right thing, big picture and perspective. So it was kind of cool. But everyone gets to the top a different way. Grant went against the grain, and he did what no one else is doing at that time, and use social media to really blow up his business and marketing. He's been great at it. So if anything, it's an inspiration. It's another person that works his butt off. He doesn't stop, and I respect him and his work ethic, and what he does. So
that's cool. So Glenn has kind of become a mentor to you, one of the first people you've allowed into that circle or that kind of advice realm. A lot of people mention in the podcast that it's always good to have a mentor, and it's pretty incredible. Even with your success now, you feel like you need that mentor to get to that next level of billionaire or whatever it is, right? How important is a mentor, do you think, to someone that's growing up, someone's 10 years old and up, or a young entrepreneur in their early 20s?
Well, we got mentors too. There's mentors and mentors, and there's just, also I tell people just hanging out with people that are bigger and better than you, that are doing things like, it's kind of the same thing as the mentor aspect, right? If they're around someone that's always progressing and are positive, like that's going to rub off on you, right? And that's the same thing as having a direct mentor, not in some ways, right? A direct mentor is someone working on with you one-on-one, but just being around people and having a mentor, I think is big. Like I said, up to, year ago, I never really had a direct mentor.
Yeah.
So but for me, mentor is a respect thing as well. Like someone I really respect as a person and business and family. For me, that's all three. If someone's just super successful and a douchebag about it, like that's not respect. If someone's, even Tony Robbins, I respect him, but the guy's been married 5 times.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about
that's crazy. I didn't know that.
I met him backstage and he's amazing. He's a great speaker, but same thing, like that family aspect.
That's not something you would want. I wouldn't want that.
It's having everything. Like me to have full respect to someone. It's health, it's family, it's leadership, it's everything. It's
stability.
And few people ever have that. So if you can find someone that is that person for you, and that's positive, that's going to help you see a different perspective, get you to the next level, but it's also hard on you and you need to be hard on you and have the hard truths. It's super important. But I always say, start with your friend group first. Get rid of the people that are negative, that are toxic, that are taking your energy away from you. Do that first and start hanging out with people that are on the other spectrum, and you'll see yourself rise. And then if you find someone that you respect enough, ask them to be your mentor. Like, hey, I respect you so much. Can you teach me? I don't want anything for it other than just your time. I'm going to do whatever you say to do because I respect you. Like for me, if someone comes to me and tells me that, I'm going to take them underneath my wing. They're not asking for anything other than my time, and they show me they want it. Let's give it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, it's I think it's so essential to save time from the mistakes that you and I probably have both also made starting a business. You mentioned you have other businesses as well. We could talk about some of those if you want. But the learning curve, I would say, is a little bit smaller if you have someone that tells you, hey, I've been through that. You don't want to turn right here. And if you do, this is going to happen to you. You're going to have to turn left 6 times.
Well, and the one thing is you got to let go of that pride and that mindset. Because even my wife, when we started growing and I started learning from people around me, or I'll tell her like, oh, they said this. Like, what do they know? I'm like, well, they've got 2 kids, been married 20 years. I think they know a few things, right? Some people, like, they try to fall because like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm like, you got to let go of it. Like, you don't know everything. I'm constantly learning. I'm not always right. I'm always want to learn. And I'm never going to not listen to an opportunity. Because I call someone, they're shut up. Oh, I've heard this before. You heard everything I've said. Let's go. Or like, I'm not going to take the time. And you're just like, I'm like, even at my level, like I would talk to someone. I will hear you out. I will give you time because it may be something that changes my life. It may be something I learn, maybe, something I get perspective on. So, don't shut other people off right away. Like take the time to listen to people because you may learn something that changes you.
That's awesome. At your level, especially, you're not cocky, you're not arrogant, and you're humble about it. I think it's where you grew up and how you were raised. That plays a big part in it. Let's talk about Instagram. Having 1 million followers. You're the first guest, I think, on my podcast that has 1 million followers. In terms of Instagram, what are the good and bad? Like, I'm sure you're getting some people that are jealous on there, and there's a lot of negative waves that come at you, or people that, you may not know what you're talking about. And I think women get it much worse than men being on the platform. I'm not sure if your wife is also as active on there. But what do you see with Instagram? Like, what are the good and the bad of having so many people or so much attention on you? Or what is the good and bad of that?
Well, you're always going to have haters, right? There's going to be the trolls, the internet trolls, right? But most people, like, once again, like, I'll use an example, kind of relative, but not, right? So I put up one of my properties, a personal one of our properties. We vibe out a lot of our stuff. Like we made this house in Arizona, Versace villa, right? Oh, wow. I love it. Behind it. It's themed out to the max, and I think it's really cool. And we do really good in all of our vibes, stuff like that. But you start reading the response and somebody like, this is an amazing house. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Why would you spend millions of dollars on this? I want to have my next party. I want to book this now. This is my dream. And why would you ever live in this? So most of the people that are negative and toxic are never going to get to your level, right? Like we talked about earlier. So what's their way of feeling better about it? Well, I'm going to trash this in my mind so I feel better about myself. And it's a poor mentality, right? I tell people, let it go. Like if you're spending time and energy making a crappy comment about something, why? What does that benefit? Yeah, right? It's different.
And it doesn't. Yeah, and it may get your attention, but not in a way where you're going to want to talk to that person further. Yeah. But yet they're sticking around, right?
I talk about it a lot. I let just let it go. Like for me, it's like, why do you put attention on negativity? Like if you took that attention and put it into something positive or something meaningful or work, what could you do with it?
Yeah.
Right. So so anyone, like when you get those messages, and we all get, I have feelings, like I get hurt. Is there times you're like, man, it bums you out a little bit? And we had trolls at one point, hunted us down, block all this stuff. And, you get those people. But you got to learn that as you rise, you're always going to have a lot of people that are pissed off about it, right? Because they're jealous. And there's a lot of fake people that are waiting for you to fail. Like at this point in my life, I'm sure a lot of people are like, this guy just never stops. Like I wish he would just not do well, right? Like in even health, he's like, I'm always dialed in. I'm always working out. If I gain 20 pounds, I'm sure a couple of my friends are like,
yeah.
Right?
Welcome to our realm or whatever they are, right?
Yeah. But that's for me, like I said earlier, like success for me is having the fitness down, having the business down, having my relationship, having a good relationship with my kids, being a good father. Like that's something I work on in every avenue. So at this point, for someone to come at me, you better be better than me in every one of those aspects. And 99.9 people will not be. So I don't take their advice and I don't take those remarks as negative, because you're always going to have haters. If you're doing something big, you're always going to have people pushing against it. If you build something great, there's always going to be someone that wants to take it from you.
Have you?
And
thank you for sharing it. Have you and Elaine noticed, like some of your friends, as you guys were both coming up, right? Have you guys noticed your friends kind of change, or maybe even, let's say, how can we put that? Let's say some of your friends are maybe not hoping for your success because they want you to stay at their level. You know what I mean? And if you're coming up to this level and they don't know how to come up to this level, you guys are at different wavelengths, different levels. Have you had to ever change your friendship groups out, or kind of switch people out and get in line with people that are also with that positive mindset, want to keep their body fit, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think COVID did that to a lot of us. COVID hit because if you're going to spend time with people and you may get sick, you're gonna irrationalize who I want to spend my time with. So during that time, me and my wife both lost our best friends of almost 16 to 20 years.
Wow.
And it was a jealousy thing, and it was kind of that vibe because they weren't moving at the same level, or just going different places in their life. And for me, I started wanting to seek people, and I had Fast Lane Drive. That was kind of the time we started hanging out with people because they were positive and they were entrepreneurs. A lot of them, not everyone's at the same level. And there's some people that are bigger and better, and there's some people that are blowing smoke, having a Ferrari or renting their apartment. But most of the time they're positive, right? So for me, will I hang out with someone like, if they're positive purely, whether they're doing big things, they make $100,000 a year, but they're super positive? Yeah, I'm fine being around them. I'll talk to them and I'll spend my time. But if you're making millions and you're negative, I don't need the time or energy. So me and my wife have this conversation a lot. Like there's a lot of people I like I'd love to hang out with, but is it worth my time anymore? Right? It sounds bad to say that. Like I feel a little bad to say that as a person, but I had to get to that point and say, hey, listen, yes, they're great people. Yes, they have a good family, but they've been stagnant for 10 years. They're not making me better. They don't understand what we're going through. We're kind of forcing the relationship because we've known them for so long.
Interesting.
So we started stopping that. Like I'm only hanging out with people that I feel good, I have a good energy with, have a good vibe with, that motivate me to be better. And time's valuable, especially as an entrepreneur. There's only so much time in my day, and I have a family. I don't want to take time away from them with people I don't want to be with. So at this point, I pick and choose who I'm going to spend time with, because that's my time, and that's the one thing, as all of us have, there's only so much. So
I think that's essential. What you said really resonated as forcing the relationship. It feels like you're just doing it because of maybe some history or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, and I've had that too, growing up with nothing, but you're kind of forcing those relationships. And then you come home and you're like, I didn't gain anything from this day. You feel shorted versus like someone that motivates, et cetera. You talked about Fast Lane. Shout out to Clement. He's a great guy. People, when he came on the podcast, I've had so many people message me. I could hear this guy talk forever. I think he should start a podcast with his French accent. It was beautiful. There are people there that have egos, just like in any success group, right? How do you deal with people that have these egos that come on as like, Mr. I did it all, but may not have it, or, they're arrogant or cocky? How do you process those people out, or Do you bite your tongue? It's as if they're talking politics and they're on the wrong side.
Well, I will say the one good thing about that group, and hats off to Clement, like I said, it's been a great thing since I joined the club. Like usually I don't meet too many people like that in the club. Most people I met in the club have been very nice and positive, right? There's, like I always say, the only thing is everyone at the same level? Not that it has to be at the same level. That's not the requirements of the club. For me, it's the people blowing the smoke, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you rent your Ferrari, you don't own a house, you have no assets, like, are you successful?
Yeah.
No, sorry. There's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. There's a difference between like I'm wearing Louis Vuitton shoes and renting everything in my life. To me, that's not success, honestly. You know,
I agree with it. I totally agree with it. It's the LA, Miami kind of vibe of the wrong investment potentially in the wrong time frame of your life, right? A lot of people talk about having those things with passive income coming in versus just spending all this money. I've met someone on actually the Real Housewives of Miami, a husband. He's like, I won't even rent a car. He's like, that's a payment I have to make so many times. Either I could buy it or I can't. And he's like, and he owns a lot of commercial real estate. But how do you, like, when you see those people, and they're talking to you and they're showing off this, bravado, so to speak. Are you just like, just nodding or what? And it doesn't have to be fast lane. I mean, you're popular. It's everywhere.
People all the time. Like, I mean, the one thing about fast lane is a lot of people have great style, right? Like I usually wear crazy shoes, jackets. I'm known for my style. And even when I go to that group, most people won't say anything because we're all crazy style. So it's kind of a fun thing. You got big personalities from that. But yes, for me, I watch the person. Like, number one, be a good person, be positive. Like, if you talk a big game and you can't back it up and it's all BS, I'm going to figure it out eventually. Right. And I'm going to steer away from those people. Like how many times I get someone call me, they have some big idea, you need to invest in this or do that. And it's all smoke. Yeah. So it's very often. I mean, every week I probably have 10 calls like that.
For potentials.
Potentials. And, that's why, if I've been taking on partners, I haven't taken any partners with any of our real estate projects or anything. It's just me and her and everything. And we're always, we push ourselves back because I've heard all the horror stories, and people are always going to say what you think they want.
Yeah, they're selling you because they know what you can contribute. But it sounds to me that your formula with your wife is so solid. I wouldn't even really consider it unless that person was an engineer in some type of AI development where you can't do it. You know what I mean? And they have a next level. It just I get offers all the time. How do you filter those offers? How do you just stay focused on your direction? Because with your following, with everything you're going, people are coming at you, I would assume, with ideas. Hey, Christoffer, let's start this. Let's get into this. How do you and your wife navigate through all that?
Most of them say no a lot.
No.
And the biggest thing here, if they're my true friends, like I have friends, like true friends of mine that come with, hey, let's invest in this. And 99%, like, not that I wouldn't want to do that with them, but I don't want the relationship to be ruined.
No, I see.
So money, like I always tell them, like, listen, you're too good a friend. If something happens and we're not friends because of a money issue, like I value you more as a person in my life than a money out. So I'll make my own money. And, at the end of the day, I rely on myself and my wife to make it happen. So that's kind of our perspective on it. And I always tell people, if I can help you or put you in the right position, but like I said, it'd have to be a very compelling argument for me to go in. I've heard the horror stories. I've had a lot of friends that invest with each other. They're always angry at each other, like, and then they're going out and spending money and they haven't given them their money back and they're pissed off about it. I don't have that because I don't do it, right?
Smart.
I give perspective. I try to help out where I can. I'll do the lending part of the deal, but I try not to, like, we don't do any investments. I think there's one investment I recently partnered with because there's a big development that I've been working on for a couple of years now. And I've done a lot of the work, so I trust what's going on. But other than that, I don't have any partnerships on anything.
Very smart. I've been there and done that and definitely ruined some friendships. And it doesn't happen right away, right? Someone gets a new girlfriend, a divorce. So there's so many variables to bring in on partners people don't realize. What about some of your other investments as we get closer to wrapping up this episode? What do you invest in real estate a lot as you own assets and so forth? Is that like would you tell an average viewer that's probably the most safest, or not financial advice, but most safest, best way to become a millionaire or have something tangible?
Yeah. I mean, what do you tell people to invest in this market? Stocks, Crypto,
Yeah.
real estate is still your best bet, right? And really, even for me, one of the biggest, not that I really have a regret, but I wish we would have gotten real estate earlier, right? We're all fearful of it, the payment, the mortgage, things like that. But real estate, there's two people that make money in this world. It's going to be people that own property or own product. Own property, own product, right? And those are the people that become very wealthy and build legacies with it, right?
Yeah.
So property is one of the easiest ways to get into it. You're not going to lose, historically buy a house in San Diego, LA, any of those key markets, next 10 years, it's going to be worth a couple $100,000 more at the very least.
Yeah.
It's not going to go down. So I still think that's the safest bet. Property is still going to be your safest bet. Obviously, that or putting your money into a business that you're going to be running it and putting your efforts into. Obviously, you can 10x or 100x a business idea as well. So business idea or real estate is your best way to spend your money.
I agree. I think real estate for me has always been the most solid investment. It's definitely been one that kind of you feel comfortable with, right? I mean, you could buy that, like you mentioned, people buying a car, but the car market goes up and down, and it's not really an investment unless you got something very rare. But overall, it'll appreciate. You could have someone pay it off and really just keep growing it. You could borrow against it. It's almost like a mini bank.
Yep.
Let's talk about your future goals. I mean, where do you see Groves Capital going? What do you see where do you see your family in 5-10 years? I think you mentioned family as being one of the most important things. Your wife, I truly respect that. I think when you brought up Tony Robbins being 5 times divorced, nothing against Tony, he's done great by a lot of people. Sorry, Tony, to bring you out here, but
still love you.
But listen, but in reality, come on, we both have families with multiple kids. I have 3, you have 2. To me, success is not just the house you're sitting in or the car you're driving. I think it's so important to have a great family dynamic where you feel love and affection and appreciation, and you're on the same page through the good and the bad. And there's a lot of bad that happens during the time of 10 years. I'm sure you've had that. But where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself in the future with business, family, et cetera?
So, I mean, family right now, my kids are young. So, obviously keep working on them to keep their mindset strong, get them into sports, building that foundation and making them understand what it takes to really be successful. And I'm going to do that by being a positive role model and practicing what I preach. So I think my kids are both going the right path. I mean, that's one thing. If you talk to anyone that doesn't have kids that hang out with us, by the time they're done hanging out with us, the kids are like, I think I want to have kids. I think we can do that. I always laugh because I'm like, well, we train them to be like this. They can go to a night theater. They can come to, like, my kid's been on stage with me at speaking events, like on stage, like that's in front of people. Cool. Like, he'll walk up to people, like when I have him at like in a restaurant, I'm like, you ask the server for what you want. You tell him what you need. He'll be direct at 9 years old. Wow. So you have to teach them to be that way. So all you future parents out there, kids don't just come out of the box knowing what's up. You have to train, teach, and reinforce to make sure that they're respectful. So that's obviously a big goal. Keep that going forward. As far as Groves Capital goes, my focus right now is really taking commercial, by the bull by the horns, the best way to put it. I want to revolutionize commercial to be more an efficient system of lending. It's been archaic. It's been slow. It's been black book and secret hidden, investors. And so for me, I'm working on bringing more investors, making it more, streamlined, make it efficient, make it safer. So that's been a big focus for me the last 2 years. And we're starting to make news headlines about what we're doing in the industry, which I'm super proud about. And then for me, I want to take over market share. So right now, as far as being a lending company, I want to be known for reputation above all. Yeah. Like being the biggest doesn't mean the best to me, to be honest. Being the best reputation for the size matters more to me. Right. So as my lending company, I'd rather stay small and have a really amazing reputation than grow to a huge and have a crappy, like Loan Depot, Quicken, reputation. That's not important to me. So for me, I want to keep building as long as I can keep my reputation, that 5 stars, that 110% experience intact. And that's what I want to be known for. I want to build something great that people talk about and the experience.
That's awesome. I mean, the commercial lending part, I totally agree with. It's very archaic. It's almost paper driven. It's like you got to reach out to someone. It's not a streamlined process at all, even with the building that we have to get funding with all the avenues. If you could go back, Christoffer, to yourself, I mean, you're a 16-year-old entrepreneur starting some type of business and you're running, things at that point in time in life, what would you tell yourself? Like you could coach that kid. You know what I mean?
So, like I said, I'm going to go back to be careful who you hang out with. Number one. Okay. The biggest thing, I think a lot of people just don't understand that concept. Like, look at your friends, look in that room. When you hang out with people, listen to how they talk. Are they positive? Are they like looking at things from a good way, right? Or are they just talking crap about everyone else and being negative and toxic? Or every time you call them, there's a problem. Like, if you start hearing it over and over, like, listen to it, get rid of that person. I'm sorry. Like, I don't care if you've known them for 20 years. Wow. They're taking your positive energy away from you. So I think that's the most crucial is spend time with people that level you up, that want to be better and bigger, and you will become bigger and better because of it. So I think that's the number one is people just got to look at your spirit, look in the mirror and say, hey, these are the people I hang out with the most. How are they as people? And regardless of how long you know them, if it's not the right vibe, you got to say goodbye. And it's one of the hardest things you're going to do. But it's the one thing in life that I've seen, I've done, I've heard, it's never going to be a failing point. It's something you need to stress on.
It's crazy. My wife had a friend like that, very negative, and I'm like, hey, this negativity is leading to our relationship. You have to cut this off, and that's so important that people recognize that and deal with it. And I think I put up a quote one time. I said, you may know someone for 20 years. That doesn't mean they're better for you than someone you met yesterday. You know what I mean? It's very true. I've met people that inspire me, and I've known people that probably just like you have. Are jealous of something or want you to fail in some crazy energetic way. If Elaine was to come on this podcast, and I don't know if she's in the house, we're not going to have her on. Of course, she probably doesn't want to do this, but what would she say is the hardest thing about you and the sweetest thing about you? Like the most difficult thing to deal with you, the easiest thing. And you can be as honest as you want.
Okay. Her biggest complaint with me is how much I work. Right. I'll give you an example. We were trick-or-treating, yesterday or whatever it was, yesterday before. And I was on my phone recruiting when the kids were out there. I'm like, well, they're hanging out with their friends. You're hanging out with your friends. And she's looking at me. She's like, Chris, this is family time. And we only have 4 or 5 more years of this and it's done. And I'm on the phone recruiting. And I said, listen, I told her, I get it. I'm also right now, it's grind time for me. I'm like, you'll thank me at the end. My kids will understand that dad had to do what he has to do to make things happen. That I got the phone call and finished with the rest of the night with my family. It's something I need to work on. Yes, it's hard for me to be present as a father all the time. That's something as a man, as a dad, I work on. I'm not perfect, but I'm working on it. And I spend way more time than my dad ever spent with me, like taking him out for school and doing these little things. I try to make 95% of everything I can possibly. But at the end of the day, my job as a father is to provide for my children, provide for my wife, make sure they're protected, safe, and healthy. So that's number one to me before time, because at the end of the day, if I can't do those things, they're going to be impacted more negatively than me being there and doing none of those other things. Very well. And then as far as something that she said you're very sweet for, or maybe something surprising we may not know. I take care of everyone around me. Like I cook for my wife every night. I open the door for her. If she goes to the bathroom in the club, I walk her to her. Wow. My friends always her friends are always like, oh, your husband's a bodyguard. I'm like, I protect her. She's beautiful. Like she's out in the club. I don't know where she's going. I know where she's at. Like I'm a protector. So I protect everyone around. Like if I go to a club with a bunch of friends, like if I hire security, it's to watch all the girls and protect them, make sure everyone's safe. So that for me, I'm a protector of everyone that's important to me. That's what I do. Man, Match.com. I'm telling you right now, you must have been the one hard find on there because she lucked out. I mean, you definitely are chivalrous. When you first had your first date, and this will be the final question, do you remember that date? I do. We met at, she'll laugh at this because she said I duped her because I took her to Extraordinary Desserts in the same day. It's a dessert place. And it's funny because I'm the biggest health freak ever, so we don't go there that often anymore. But yes, I remember, talking to her and like conversation. Like I said, it was very direct. I was just the most honest I've ever been. So if I could say to people, when you're out there dating is don't be someone you're not, just be who you are and be realistic and tell people what your goals are. And the biggest thing with relationships is tell people what you want in your future, right? If you guys don't know what your future is, then you don't know where your present's going. So you have real conversations. So yeah, being attracted to someone is important, but that will come and go. Respect, friendship, having the trust it's crucial.
I love that. I love that. And it seems like you guys are keeping the spark alive with the same mindset and doing fun things and having good people around you. Chris, thank you for coming. I truly appreciate your time. I'm glad I'm not in LA and you had to drive somewhere. So,
Thank you.
So that was a win. Elaine sounds like a very nice person. Hopefully I'll get to meet her one day as well. Anything you need on this side of California, you let me know. Truly appreciate it. Guys, there you have it. Chris came on. He shared some really, really deep knowledge of what it takes to have the right mindset to be a success, how to raise a strong young man, importance of relationships. And I think that's a really big one. Chris, I wish you all the best. And thank you. Truly appreciate you coming on. Very humble so far from what I experienced. And I look forward to seeing more from you as well as getting to know you better in the future.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure. It's been a great interview. I love it.
Oh, thank you, my man. Thank you. I'm working on my skills here and there, but
you get flow. I love it.
Well, I truly appreciate it. I think people, by the way, I'll put up everything in terms of following you and everything.